Good afternoon, Charles. Welcome to Australia and welcome to Deakin.
Well, thank you, Simon. It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. Charles, you're very well known for your work as a consultant helping organisations develop effective learning strategies based on 70-20-10. 70-20-10 is a model that's become fairly ubiquitous in learning development. At its essence, how would you describe the model and the impact it can have on an organisation?
It's a really good question. 70-20-10 for me is all about change. I describe it usually as a way to extend learning to improve performance, with a focus on performance. Because I think that a trap to a certain extent that we've fallen into is that we think of learning as being structured development, although we know that learning happens everywhere almost constantly. And 70-20-10 is just a way to put a lens on the development that's happening and the development that potentially can happen, and then get the levers in place to make that happen and to extract most value out of that. So really it's a performance-focused, value-add approach and framework to help organisations develop.
Excellent. And so what are some of the changes you're seeing at the moment in terms of the way organisations are approaching the development of their workforce?
Well, I think there's sea change going on at the moment. I see this across the globe, and it's not just in particular vertical sectors, it's not just in private business and so on, it's actually across the board. And I think there's some drivers which we all know about. You know, there's drivers of agility, organisations need to be agile. If they're not agile, they die. We need speed to capability. We need customer focus. All those sorts of things are sort of coming to a head. And I think they're playing back into that whole issue of how we develop our people, how do we develop our capability. And again, for years and years and years, senior people have said our people are our most important asset. Well, actually, now they are, and there's no doubting it. And so I think there's been this slight tension where we know we need agility, speed, flexibility, innovation, all these sorts of capabilities are really important. And yet, to a certain extent, we've been a one-trick pony in that, in a way, a lot of the structured development is really good. I mean, your own organisation, absolutely wonderful quality stuff. But there's a lot more besides that. And I think that's where the big impact is starting to have, and where organisations are starting to put a lens beyond the structured development into how can we exploit experiential learning, how can we exploit the workplace for learning, can we help people exploit their networks and their relationships with others for learning. And 70-20-10 puts an umbrella over that and helps us do that.
Very good. And I mean, all businesses are under pressure to improve the performance and productivity and output of their people to achieve objectives. I mean, to what extent do you think the traditional approach is actually helping or achieving that?
Well, the traditional approach has always had some limitation, and in a way, when most people were doing transactional work, or when transactional work was much more important in the big scheme of things, ensuring that people had basic competence and systematising learning and so on sort of worked well. But we're no longer in that environment. And some research by the Corporate Executive Board relatively recently asked about 7,000 chief executives and senior managers and HR directors. They asked them a question, and the question was this: how much do you need in terms of performance improvement to achieve your objectives in the next 12 months? So what sort of uplift in performance do you need to achieve your objectives in the next 12 months? And the response they got in terms of that survey was around about 25-27%. Then when the Corporate Executive Board looked at the ability using traditional means to uplift performance, they came to a view that actually a lot of the structured development is pretty efficient anyway, and when it's done well, it's done really well, and the uplift was about 4%. So there's this yawning gap, and as the years go by, it's yawning. So I think that creates imperative for doing things differently, and 70-20-10, I think, if nothing else, helps us look at things differently.
So in that context, what do you see that organisations can do to close that gap between 4% and 27%?
Well, I think that organisations have to, if they're going to close that gap, they have to look to extend learning into the workplace, into the workflow, and move from providing a set of point solutions, a set of structured learning events, and move it into a process and move it into a continuous flow. So exploit experiences in the workplace for learning, exploit the opportunity to practice, exploit other people and networks and conversations, and use reflection and those sorts of techniques which really intentionally can help us develop individual capability, team capability, and organisational capability.
Yep. So where you see organisations that do that that social and non-formal learning well, do we see a performance uplift from those organisations?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Burson by Deloitte, a research organisation in the US, carried out a study 2 or 3 years ago that showed that organisations that are really effective at using informal learning, and particularly social learning and experiential learning, those organisations are up to 3 times better at talent development than those organisations that don't. And it's not just Burson by Deloitte that has that data. There's lots of other data that's come out over the last few years that show that organisations who focus on helping people learn as part of the workflow on the job and with others achieve a lot more than if they don't. Again, the Corporate Executive Board did a study that showed that where people utilise the workplace to learn in terms of on-the-job learning, those people are likely to increase performance, again by about a factor of 3, and also their level of engagement goes up by about 2.5 times. Those people are involved actively in on-the-job learning. So there's a whole pile of positives around this in terms of expanding learning out into the workplace.
Yeah, okay. And the role of the line manager has always been regarded as important when it comes to people development. What role does the line manager play in the 70-20 model?
Well, the role of the line manager is critical. I think without the line manager you can't do it, because the line manager is best placed as an agent of development, far better placed by any external provider or any HR department or any learning and development department, because creating opportunities to develop, giving challenging work, opportunity to reflect on that challenging work, giving people the opportunity to be stretched, sometimes stretched beyond their limit. All those sorts of things are in the purview of the bailiwick of the manager. So managers are absolutely critical. And I think one of the challenges that really face us is how do we ensure that managers see that role as being critical, that role as a developer of their teams being as critical or more critical than their role in terms of operations, in managing operations, because evidence points to the fact that those managers who are really effective and focused at developing their people, those people outperform others by a huge amount, and there are all sorts of other benefits around that. So it's absolutely critical. You can't do it without managers.
Yep. And you mentioned reflection, and a lot of people would often say, look, we don't have time to reflect while we're at work. How important is reflection as part of an effective 70-20-10 strategy?
Critical. You don't have time not to reflect. We wouldn't think of a great football team, think of an Aussie rules team, that get beaten. Do you think that they don't go back?
That's my team, Melbourne.
Okay, right. Yes. Yeah, I was thinking of Collingwood. But, if you think about a sporting team or an individual, they come off the court or off the pitch. Of course, they will take the game apart. They will reflect on what went well, what didn't go well, what they need to do next time. Of course they do that. And actually, high performance in sport or high performance in any area is exactly the same. We need to think about how we achieve that performance, and we need to think about the barriers and how we overcome the barriers. So reflection is really critical. I always say if you strip away all the theory of how high performers achieve their level of performance, we come down to 4 key factors. It's rich and challenging experience, exposure to rich and challenging experiences. It's the opportunity to practice. It's the ability to have rich conversations and build networks that one can exploit when one needs. And lastly, it's that reflective practice is critical. And we can all reflect. We can take a minute out of the day just to sit and reflect. Get a cup of coffee and think about how things have gone, and intentionally reflect how you might do things differently how that might work out next time. You know, it should be just part of our DNA, part of what we do.
Excellent. I could ask you a million more questions, but I've got one more, which is a very important one. You were born and raised in Australia, but you've lived in England for a long time now. Who are you barracking for in the World Cup cricket at the moment?
No question, no question. It's the green and gold, without a question. Yeah.
Excellent. You're welcome back anytime. Thank you very much, Charles.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Great.